record on this computer. Okay, recording is on. So good morning, my name is Layla Rao and I'm the co-founder of Lean and Agile, and as part of our LIA100 initiative, we're looking to honor some amazing women who have contributed to this community in terms of thought leadership and community impact. And our guest today is?
Hello, so my name is Mina Nakicenovic. I have been working with the software development for more than 20 years. Originally, I come from Serbia, and I am living now in Sweden. My Agile journey starting a long time ago, already in year 2001, when in fact Agile Manifesto was published. At that time, I was pretty on the deep technical side, working as a developer and architect. And in fact, what is interesting, I've heard about Agile Manifesto at my first date with my future husband at the time. He was my boyfriend. So he was talking about Agile Manifesto. And I got very inspired because at that time we used a lot of principles that are coming from extreme programmings, but Agile Manifesto was a little bit broader. And from that time, I have been starting applying Agile principles, first on technical solutions, designing architecture, but after the several years, I have been developing myself, becoming a development manager. Currently, I work as a head of development. So my Agile journey started from that deep technical perspective, and then went through working with how to build high-performance teams, then further level, how to establish remove silos between different teams, much more towards the enterprise agility. And currently, I'm working much more on the higher level, thinking about how to set in the best way business strategies in order to support business agility at the organizations.
It sounds like a fabulous journey. So you mentioned you started from a very technical level. I've got to think that it's pretty unusual to be a woman working in a very technical space, trying to change how they think. What was that like for you?
Yes, that's very true. And I can tell you, since I was born in Serbia and grew up in Serbia, in fact, it was very fortunate from that technical perspective, because I think in Eastern European countries, women were much more supported to choose that technical path or mathematics and etc. So during that period, of course, we weren't 50-50 compared to men, but maybe it was 35%, even 40% within certain areas. So I'm really thankful for that, because I didn't have those constraints, women should not be engineers and etc. And furthermore, I had a fantastic mother who was also electrical engineer. She worked as a nuclear researcher, and my father is mathematician, so in that combination, in that family, it was natural to choose something related to technology. But I have to say, I really enjoy working with technology, especially with the software development. And I used to say when I get those questions, but maybe it's not feminine to work with software development. I think vice versa, it is. You're just sitting, programming, you have a nice dress, compared to some other domains like a medical doctor, when you have to have another type of outfit. So in fact, I think it's just depends on the perspective that you take. But I must admit now, since I live in Sweden, I have been living here for 20 years, I see that in many other European countries and even worldwide, it's a big challenge for a woman who wants to work in technical world, starting from choosing that as their studies and later on as a profession. There are not too many. They don't see the benefits and what is the beauty of that. So that's why I would really like to spread my happiness and experience from working with the technology and software development, because it really fulfills me, and I'm sure that there are a lot of girls and women who would feel the same if they have chosen the same profession.
And I think you're spreading that message very well doing all these talks at conferences. And one of the conference talks you mentioned bringing other parts of yourself other than your culture. You talked of being a helicopter pilot, your childhood as an athlete. Can you talk about how all of those things help you with your work?
Yes, definitely. I can go a little bit to explain that because I'm also very passionate about innovation and the innovation management, because I think it's an important part of Agile, how to be adaptable to change, how to set your business strategies, how to find those market niches. You have to know all those systematic approaches to innovation. And within innovation, there are generally two types how you can innovate everything, both at work and at home in private life. One thing is directional innovation, when you are incrementally innovating within the same domain where you are. There is another type of innovation that I really believe in, and I think it's so powerful. It's called intersectional innovation, when you combine two completely different domains by applying maybe principle from one domain into another domain. And in that way, you really like combining existing things in a completely new way, and then you get a new value proposition or something new.
Yes.
Yes, and since I think both I believe in that, and maybe it's kind of one of my superpowers, the way how my brain works, I really like to be inspired from different domains and trying to see, can I solve a problem in my current domain by applying some principles from some other domains, and in that way to get some good innovative solution. So when you mentioned my swimming competitions, I was a swimmer as a child, competed a lot, then I stopped swimming. It was a long time ago. And several years ago, yes, I started swimming again. And yes, it was after 27 years long break. Wow. When I saw my children swimming, then I got that passion for swimming again. And, you know, since I was a competitive swimmer before, it felt like if I train, I must compete again. And then I decided to start competing on Swedish championships for veterans. It's called Master Swimmers for former swimmers. And my thought was, you know I'm not among the best ones, but I wanted to get a medal. And I was thinking, maybe I can apply some of the methodologies or frameworks that I'm using within that innovating your business model, analyzing competitors on the market, trying to find market niche. So I used a lot of principles proposed by Blue Ocean Strategy, that was proposed by two professors from INSEAD Institute, the Professor René Mauborgne and Chan Kim. Yes. So I used these tools. First, I start to visualize my strategy value curve, where I'm today, to picture out who are the under entrants on the market, my competitors, analyze the market, and found my market niche. So although I wasn't the best one, I managed to get gold medals on Swedish national championships in master swimming. And I think it's really very important message to share with other people. I think many people say you can manage and achieve very far just if you believe in that. I would like to extend a little bit more. I think it's very important to have a good strategy. So when you want to achieve something, it's not only enough that you really want to achieve that passion, but you have really to think and set a good strategy how you can reach your goal. So it applies both in professional life, but also in personal life.
That's an extraordinary ability that you have to take professional skills and apply it to your personal life and vice versa. And I think that is an inspiring message for people to hear, because so often we forget that who we are at work or at home is really a transferable skill that can work in both parts of our lives.
Yes, exactly.
Somebody who took piloting lessons but never became a pilot, one of the connections I think I can see is piloting requires an ability to sense what's happening around you and react in real time. You can have a plan, but what's going on around you is going to be how you make that plan work by adapting. And that sounds very much like an agile planning process.
Yes, exactly. I have a very nice metaphor with that, being a helicopter pilot. And I think nowadays it's really very important to emphasize that. In Agile world, as we said, it started much more from a teams level, how to apply Agile principles on teams level, how they work with the Scrum and with the iterations to have that fast feedback cycle and so on. After that, we raised our thoughts, and we're thinking much more from that company perspective.
Absolutely.
One thing that is a little bit missing in the Agile world, talking about the strategy, it was like kind of a forbidden word 10 years ago. It was like, oh, we are not planning. It's only that traditional way of working that you put a vision, strategy, and so on. But so everyone was focused on organizing or establishing autonomous, self-organized teams. But what people forgot, if you have a self-organized autonomous teams, how you can align them towards the same goals. You have to have a clear vision, and then team will choose strategies how to go there. So that alignment and autonomy. And in order to be able to set that vision and break down to your departments or teams that you are working with or leading, it's important then being, as I say, metaphorically good helicopter pilot to have ability to see the big picture, to understand what is important on that high level, but also go down and help teams with the current challenges, and all the time to have that ability to switch back and forth. And from my experience, just one sentence more, I saw many leaders, and it's so easy to stay on that high level for a long time, to enjoy working with that vision and strategic work, or to be stuck on the down level, just focus on one or two teams. But that it requires really ability that you have to go up and down all the time.
No, I was going to say that certainly sounds like at least two of your superpowers. One is the ability to operate at the different levels, which again has a very big parallel to piloting. But being able to see the strategy and the execution and go back and forth to adapt, that's certainly one superpower. And the other one sounds like the whole transferable skills, being able to see something from somewhere else, bring it here. I think those two combined really, it's the Agile mindset, right? It's setting a plan, adapting, and seeing what that happens. What would you recommend for other people to develop those two superpowers?
Yes, so I would like to say also I'm so inspired by Agile and Lean and so many methodologies, frameworks that they offer. First, within Agile world, it's talking about fixed and growth mindset. So it's very important, and I really believe that maybe some people are more born with a fixed, or some people are more born with a growth mindset, but I really believe if you work on yourself, you can build in those, muscles that grow and become strong. You can work a lot with your mindset to become a much more growth mindset. So it's one thing that I think it helps you with everything in life, not only from professional perspective, personal perspective, on so many different levels. And then I would like to say also then Kinevin framework, when you have 4 different areas. One is when known knowns, it's a typical problem, I will solve that in that way. But in many situations, you have those unknown unknowns or unknown knowns, and then you have to apply different strategies how to work with them. For example, to experiment, to be ready that maybe you will fail, but that you will learn something with that. So I think those 2 things and frameworks, I think it's so important to apply in life and to think about that you don't feel like stress. Oh, now that situation, I'm not familiar with how I should solve that. To think, okay, it's like in Kinevin. It's something that I completely don't know, and it's recommended. First, I should experiment, learn from that, and then see how to solve the problem.
Wow.
Yes, I have one nice story, if it is okay to present it. Yes, here how I believe also that we applied the Kinevin framework on my Agile family. Yes, my husband also works with the software development, and we have 3 kids. And both of us, we are passionate in attending conferences because we really believe in that sharing is caring, that it's so important to share your knowledge, everything, your perspectives with the different people, to talk to them, to hear their perspectives and vice versa, because it's the best way how you develop yourself and how other people develop themselves. But when we got kids, especially 3 small kids, it was so difficult to attend the conferences and to find like babysitting for the kids. And we decided, let's experiment and let's try bringing our kids to the conferences. Let's see what will happen. And so at that time, I've heard a lot of reactions. Oh, but it's like conferences for adults. But they said, we will find a way. We will try it. You know, sometimes you have to think a little bit. Although maybe other people don't do that, you try to do that. But one important thing was, because kids were really very small at that time, and we had also breastfeeding babies, and, you know, we were ready. We said, let's try, but don't put high expectations. If it does not work, let's have a backup plan. If we cannot attend, like, let's take turns. One is attending talks, then other is taking care about the kids, and vice versa. So I think that when you experiment, you should have that mindset to be ready, that you have a plan A and plan B, you know, that some things, you cannot predict everything that will happen. And I can tell you, it grew to something extremely beautiful. We didn't know about that. So from the beginning, it was much more babysitting issue. Like, that's why we were bringing kids. But during the time, our kids have started enjoying attending the conferences. And I think it's that because usually, especially within Agile communities, you meet beautiful people without those growth mindsets. So they're not only great professionals, they're such inspiring people. And then you get energy from them. So our kids, you know, we could see their development from being babies, like we were hiding them in a dark corner of the rooms, you know, during the talks. And after a while, they wanted to sit and listen to our talks, you know, to present. And when they reached, like, when they became around 10 years old, 9 years old, they asked us, could we participate in your talks? So they wanted to take a part in talks. So now I have several talks that I'm presenting together with my middle son. Now he is 12 years old, but he started when he was 9 years old. And for me, it's the greatest award that I could have get. You know, standing at the stage together with your children and talking about those blue ocean strategy or agile methodologies, you know, I really feel it's great, because we are not sharing our problems with the children. We are sharing some beautiful things, solutions. And I think it's really important to build in those capabilities in your children. But one important thing also to emphasize, we couldn't have achieved that if we hadn't ended up in such great environments. Especially there is one very nice community, Agile in Europe, and they're organizing conferences. It's always end of August. Why I'm saying that? I think that our children grew in that direction, developed in that direction because of that psychological safety. They feel safe in the surrounding, and that's why, and when you feel that strong psychological safety and trust, then you become creative. You know, it's many people who know neuroscience, I'm not specialist there, but they're saying like the way how our brain works, you're the most creative when you're not stressed, when you feel that psychological safety, when you're calm, and then you start coming with the new ideas. And I feel both, not only for my children, for my whole family, for myself. I wouldn't become Mina that I am today if I haven't had met all those wonderful people who gave me kind of support, that surrounding with that strong psychological safety, gave me possibility to become creative, you know.
Wow.
So it's really great.
That's extraordinary. I love your experience of bringing up your kids in the Agile community, because yes. I think the next generation is going to need Agile as just a normal way of being and thinking, because the world they're getting is so full of challenges and complexities. So that's
yes, exactly.
But I want to pick up on your last thought about psychological safety. Organizations these days, almost everybody wants innovation. They want all of these things. Do you think they really understand that innovation is not simply a magical thing that happens, but it requires all this investment in psychological organizational behavior, in investing in your people over a period of time before you can reap the benefits of innovation?
Yes, that's very true what you said, that many companies experience innovation. It's just brainstorming meetings when we are like discussing different ideas and nothing happened. But in order to build those capabilities for innovation, it requires work within several domains. First, if you start from that business and technical perspective, I would say when I'm talking about innovation, I believe in those systematic approaches to innovation. Not just, of course, you should gather ideas, but you should be a little bit smart. And maybe it's that my mathematical or engineering brain that is working, but I really believe that there are a lot nowadays, there are a lot of methodologies that how you can analyze the market, your competitors, yourself as a company. It's related to those qualitative insights, qualitative insights, quantitative data, data-driven innovation. So there are a lot of things that you can gather and put in those models. But very important factor is that humanity, mindset, people. First, they have to understand to think in a different way. And also you or the whole leadership within the company, management team, has to support that environment for innovation. And also coming back, as you mentioned, with that psychological safety. And you're the most creative when you really feel good at work. So you have to have such an environment where you feel comfortable, when you have a space to be creative and come up with new ideas. So if you go back to different organizational structures and management styles, for example, in bureaucratic organizations where you have a high-paid person in an organization, nobody knows what is the vision, what is strategy, everyone is just afraid of doing something, you cannot expect innovation. The same goes for hierarchical organization. Usually you have a very strictly defined, you work with this, you work with this, and then you don't have a space or time or resources to work with those cross domains initiatives or think in intersectional way, So that's why I believe it's so important that two aspects. First, management and leadership to build such environment which gives capability for innovation, that people really become creative. And another thing, that people really believe in those systematic approaches to innovation, that they have a capability, and also to think everything that we have been doing like until now, maybe it was good at that period of time, but now market has changed. Maybe now it's a red ocean of competition. It's cost too much if we are just continuing working as usual. We have to change something. And for change, it's very difficult. Everyone agrees, we should change something, but when it comes to execution, usually it does not happen too much, especially with that higher management perspective. It's so difficult to innovate your business model, especially if you were working with something for a long period of time, and to switch the thoughts, maybe we should introduce something else in our main value proposition and create a new value proposition to conquer new current non-customers of our offering. It's a very challenging task, that mindset. I completely agree.
No, it does. It sounds like, but this is a reality for most of us these days. We're working in places where what we've been doing until now isn't enough. We have to do something else. So it sounds like from what you're saying, there are some things that organizations and leaders can do to drive this process, to make this more than just an accidental luck thing, but also the individual level. People can bring their entire selves together, look at what skills they have in different parts of their life, and what you said earlier, try these different techniques with your family, with volunteer efforts, so you build confidence with those techniques before you can bring it to work.
Yes, exactly. I completely agree.
I think so, because I think for a lot of people, especially women, we struggle with having the first opportunity. And when you first get that opportunity, it's so much more reassuring to know, okay, I haven't done this for work, but I have done this in all these other places, and I have some feedback, and I have something to draw upon. So I think that's the takeaway most of us can use. Do your learning before you get the opportunity. Practice any place you can. And you mentioned conferences. And yes, Agile conferences are a pretty amazing community to do all of those things. This has been an extraordinary conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. And I would like just, if I have several minutes more.
Sure, please, go ahead.
Yes, I would like just to tell another story and emphasize a little bit from technological perspective, because I think since Agile Manifesto was published in the year 2001, and it was like manifesto from developers to developers, right. But then it grew in a much wider and broader methodology, and that's great. But sometimes people forget that they can still apply Agile thinking on designing the architecture. And I think it's something also that we should know. We should not go just on that higher level things about organizational structure, processes, strategies. Don't forget that there are a lot of inspiration in Agile methodologies which you can apply how you design the architecture. I have while I worked as a developer and architect, I applied many times that build, measure, learn, lean startup principle on designing architecture, especially for some design that is, or many people believe it's like a bottom-up approach. You cannot slice that, you cannot deliver small increments. You have to sit and design your architecture model like for 1 year, and then you can get a return on investment. I don't agree. There are a lot of things if you start thinking, but it's much more like you have to start thinking that way and think how I can design my architecture instead of like building something for a long period of time and then get return on investment. How I can build small increments, that minimum viable solution or something that directly creates a return investment in a different way. And I can tell you and promise you that you will find a lot of good solutions. So it's possible. So in the Agile world, I would just say a message: don't forget to apply all those great principles from Agile and Lean also on designing the system, the architecture of technology. So it's not only for the organizational processes, business strategies, product discovery, and other things, it's also for the architecture, building your system.
I love that you're still so passionate about your roots and your experience as an architecture and developer. And I agree. I mean, I come from Lean myself, so I totally have a sense of everything, whatever you're doing, you can apply Lean and Agile principles to it to amplify learning, to improve your feedback loops, to basically have fun. Agile is meant to be fun, and it should be.
Yes. But I think that's why it's fun, because during the Agile journey, you're learning so many things, and it's how we are done, how our brain works. When you have learned new things, then you're even more inspired and passionate, and it's that positive feedback loop, and then you just want to know more and more, and so it's a wonderful journey.
It is, and I think to bring it back full circle, that feedback loop is how people can develop growth mindset. Try it, and the feedback loop builds upon itself. Because yes, I think we'll both agree that growth mindset is essential for every person, and it's something that you can build upon. Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your knowledge with us.
Thank you very much. And I must say that it's a really great honor for me meeting you, the all organizer, and ending up in this 100 list. It's really great. And I'm looking forward to meet all other great, amazing women that I haven't met before, but I know that now my views will be even more broader and more open.
Thank you so much. And you can find Mina's journey on our YouTube channel, which we're going to share the link with you in just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to stop recording.
Okay.
All right, I think